Mr. Bob Outhouse and Mr. Frank Catalina. Bob is running for District 9 and Frank is running for District 1. I wanted just to let everybody know we did extend the invitation tonight to Captain Borgia and Colin Smith. They did not get back to us until late today. Actually, Borgia never even replied. Colin did reply that he had a prior commitment and wasn't able to make it, but we want to thank Bob and Frank for coming out and giving us their time. This is really crunched for them, so for them to pencil us in just shows that they're committed to Peekskill. So I will hand it over. They're going to be here. You can ask questions from the floor to them, but we do ask that when we do our mayoral and city council, if there are not questions from the floor. If you do have questions, there are pieces of paper in the back that you can write your questions on.
Who's up? Frank?
Well, toss a coin.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out on such a miserable night. I'm Frank Catalina. I was a mayor here for 2 terms. I'm absolutely against the proposal across the street to expand the homeless shelter. In fact, I'm against that homeless shelter expanding anywhere in Peekskill. I believe that every community, every single community, has an obligation to take care of their homeless. And Peekskill's been doing that for over 30 years. In fact, CHOP announced that they're having their 30th anniversary gala at some restaurant. Oh, Fin and Brew.
Can we go?
I think it's actually, it's this month, I just don't know what day. But anyway, the current 12 to 15 bed facility has served Peekskill well for 30 years. I'm a member of the Rotary, and for 3 years I ran the Rotary program that gives 1 meal a week every Wednesday night to CHOP. We deliver hot food and we serve it. Many times we didn't have, a volunteer couldn't make it, I would get down and cover it. I've served countless meals down there under the Rotary program, and not once were they ever overcrowded, never standing room only. So I firmly believe, from my own personal experience and witnessing it, that we have a facility that can handle the Peekskill homeless. I don't think we need a $1 million grant to expand a Peekskill facility to a 50 or 60 bed facility, which was the plan. Westchester County was involved in a lawsuit over housing, where the richer communities did not have any affordable housing, or had less than 5 or 6%, I think was the target. So HUD brought a lawsuit against the county, and it cost the county millions and millions of dollars, and it's not a Republican or a Democratic thing. The lawsuit started under County Executive Spano and continued under County Executive Astorino, and was, we lost, and we had to build the numbers that were agreed to under the Spano administration, and Astorino finished it. But we wasted a lot of time and money on legal fees. Not that I have anything against legal fees, but we wasted a lot of time and money on it. And I bring that up only to show you that some communities in Westchester County, probably the same ones that were not doing their part for housing, are not doing their part for homelessness. And I will work to make sure that it doesn't take another federal lawsuit or a civil rights or equal opportunity lawsuit to force them to do what they're obligated to do. It's not, I don't want to use the word dumping, but it's not Peekskill's obligation to cover the shelters that were closed in Yonkers and Mount Vernon, and I believe New Rochelle, but don't hold me to that. I'm not a county legislator yet, so I don't have all my facts exactly, but I know the county closed 3 shelters in the past year, and they expect places like Peekskill to pick up the slack. And it's not fair to Peekskill, and it's not fair to them. Can you imagine if your family, you get in a catastrophic accident, you can't work, and your family becomes homeless, and they should be doing everything they can to keep you in your community. That's the whole point of having a shelter. Why would you like to go to actually be so broken and down that you have to go to the county for help, and they send you up someplace near Albany or Poughkeepsie even? It's totally not right for the people that they're trying to help. It's not right for the communities that are being dumped upon, and therefore I think my position of every community takes care of their own homeless problem if they have one, is a fair and reasonable solution to this. So as a county legislator, I would reject any money that is going to be earmarked for a community to expand a homeless shelter or create a homeless shelter unless that community wants it and needs it to take care of their homeless population. I would support reopening the shelters that have been closed in the cities that need the shelters for their homeless, and not to thrust it upon communities that do not need it and a community that does not want it. So that's where I stand on that, and I will speak out. I vow to you to speak out at every public meeting before any common council or town board to express that directly. I haven't been contacted by any members of the press to grill me on that position, but that position is engraved in stone. That's what I believe, that's what I stand for. I will not waver, I will not embarrass you and say one thing here and go out and do something else. You can count on me. You know I was the mayor. I took a lot of heat for telling it like it is because I'm not a polished politician. I don't know how to sugarcoat my position. Ask me a position on anything and I'll tell you how I feel about it. I don't believe Westchester County should have its own immigration policy. I don't believe Westchester County should have its own interpretation of the Second Amendment and try to shove that down everybody's throat. I don't think you're changing the gun violence situation in this country by not allowing a gun show at a facility in Westchester. I don't know that they know. It's only a 3-mile drive across the Tappan Zee Bridge. You buy all the guns you want. I believe that when they enact a sales tax, it should be uniform throughout the county. So when I buy a chair here and pay my 8%, somebody buying the chair in Yonkers, the same exact chair, should pay their 8%. But tucked away in that law was exempting certain cities, Mount Vernon, Yonkers, I believe White Plains. Those 3 communities have their own 1% sales tax, and therefore they get exempt 1% on the county sales tax. Because that's fair in some people's opinion. The only reason a municipality enacts a local sales tax is because they're mismanaging their budget. The only reason Peekskill enacted a transfer tax on people selling their homes is because they mismanage their budget. And they should get rid of it as quickly as possible. So, I mean, my question to the county executive or the majority would be, should I, as a mayor of Peekskill, enact a 5% sales tax? And then get it off my county tax rate. And then as a mayor, I would enact it to give it back to the resident at the point of purchase. So you would buy the chair, I would tax you 5%, City of Peekskill tax, and when they close the cash register drawer, they hit the refund button and it opens up and gives you back your 5%. I think it's ridiculous that they give those credits to those towns and cities that mismanage their budget. Those are just some of the fairness issues. When we talk about the homeless and the shelter and the $1 million or more, I could talk about Indian Point, I could talk about the disgraceful condition of Playland. And I'm a member of the Rotary. I was down there for the horse show. And, you can't sugarcoat it. It's absolutely a disgrace. When I was a kid, when a lot of us were kids growing up here, our vacation was to go to the beach at Blue Mountain. And those of you that are laughing know. And when we went down there, we spent the day down there. And our families barbecued afterwards, and it was a beautiful day. But you can't do that anymore. The beach is cordoned off with a fence. It's overrun with weeds. It's just really a sad, sad situation. And I heard they spent $10 million on one ride at Playland. Give me one of that $10 million and I'll change that park forever for your kids and your grandkids. I can talk about the airport, I can talk about Playland, but I won't bore you. I know Bob has to get up here and other people want to speak. So I just wanted to let you know that my rough edges from being mayor will be working for you down county. No longer will northern Westchester, north of 287, be shortchanged. If we get myself elected, Bobby Outhouse, Michael Grace in Yorktown, northern Westchester strong. We have a representative in Mount Pleasant who's excellent. She's not a Republican. She's I believe she's a conservative or an independent. So on a 17-member board, I think we can do a lot. Look what we did in Peekskill. I've never had a majority, but we got every single project approved that we wanted to get approved. 524 residential units, 24 commercial. Turn the finances around to turn in surpluses every year. except the first year, and that budget I inherited. So, and I think we did well. We have a great record here in Peekskill. I have a solid record of achievements, surpassed only, I think, by Mayor Testa, who's actually here tonight. He always reminds me, he had about 1,300 residential units. My 524 are about half that. So it's been a it's been a long election season since February we started. I look forward to serving you, and thank you very much for your support. God bless you all.
So you guys all got to hear Kathy's little chime, so that's how you'll know your time is up. You didn't know. So thank you, Frank. Bob, and then Lindsay will come in, and then we'll get started with our mayor.
So I do have to be at an event in Croton at 7, so I'm gonna.
There you go.
All right. Is it okay if I?
Yeah, you gotta go.
So thank you guys very much. I mean, you guys know me.
Thank you very much. I'll tell you, wow, Peekskill Safe and Strong, 1 year anniversary here. Started last year, and I came in when I said I was running to listen to the problem right here in the city of Peekskill, which is in District 9, right down the road here. And we'll start off with that, and then we'll get to me, but you guys done a great job. And when the people speak out is when the elected officials have to listen. They have to listen to the residents. And that's why you're in office, to serve the people. And I think Peekskill Safe and Strong has done a great job to get that message out about the homeless shelter. And it's not about the homeless itself, it's about the location. Like Frank says, you know, Peekskill's taking care of their homeless. And CHOP has done an excellent job right where it is. But if we're gonna put county homeless, and I patrolled those county homeless shelters from Yonkers to Mount Vernon to New Rochelle, to Mount Vernon, to White Plains, to the county's Grasslands Reservation. I can tell you what goes on there. There are some good things, and there's some bad things. As a cop, I've been through all of them. But it's about putting them in the right location to protect them and to protect the residents. So as Frank said, you know, it doesn't need to be right here in this residential area, and it may never come to Peekskill. And we're not going to take on additional people, because you know what? When we look at the numbers, I bet you if you look at those numbers are coming across the city border of New York City into Westchester. So we're really taking on an enormous amount of homeless out of the city of New York. So who am I and why am I running? Well, many of you knew me in 2017, I hope, in districts 13 and 20 right here on the south side of Peekskill. I ran for county legislator because the job wasn't getting done on our end. I'm a constituent in District 9. As I learned walking from Briarcliff, Ossining, Croton, Cortland, and Peekskill, that our legislator is not a responsive legislator to the people. She was elected by the people. Respond. Some way or fashion, please respond to your constituents. She has not responded here in the last year over the homeless shelter. 26 times or somebody said they emailed her, no response. That's not what a legislator should do. Respond back some way, shape, or form. And then you know what? If it's too long in an email, or maybe just stop by. I'm retired. I plan to put every ounce of time I have into being a good elected official for the people. So, who am I? Bob Outhouse, lifelong resident of the town of Cortland, graduate of Hendrick Hudson High School. When I graduated high school in 1982, I won a few awards as I was sitting in the VA hospital in Montrose, and my name got called several times, but the one award that I failed to mention anywhere else, but I started saying it today, was I won the most civic-minded student of the class of 1982 in Hendrick Hudson High School. And it was actually put out and donated by the Montrose Fire District at the time. So I went on and became a fire chief in the Village of Buchanan, president of the company, trustee of the company. I started right here, though, before I graduated, in the city of Peekskill at the Peekskill Ambulance Corps Youth Group. A great program I started at age 14. And I worked my way up very quickly and became the captain of that youth group. And when I became the captain, I knew that I wanted to continue my volunteer service and go back to where my family had started in Buchanan and be the Buchanan Fire Chief. I accomplished that. I got a job, a great job, by Westchester County. Became a Westchester County police officer. One of the very few selected people to be chosen to be an emergency service officer. That is somebody that goes to every car accident, cuts people out of cars, does all the, how should I say it, above and beyond what a regular officer would do. Then they asked me to be a member of the bomb squad. Now I got to tell you, I was afraid of fireworks, and they asked me to be a member of the bomb squad. They said they would train me. They said they would send me all over the country. They did. I've been from California to Alabama to Atlanta to New Mexico and got the best training in this country to be a civilian bomb tech. My training did come, and I needed my training. Westchester, you know, if you do some history, was the home of both domestic and international terrorism back in the late 70s and early 80s. Some bombings come to mind, you can look them up. Union Carbide in Mount Pleasant. Mobile headquarters in Eastchester, New York. 500 Mamaroneck Avenue, IBM. These are bombs that actually exploded and were put out by certain groups. The FALN, the United Freedom Front. So we prepared for that. I became an instructor in police and fire. I got to meet people all over the place. And I really liked to speak. I liked to train. And I became a detective in 2000, which I won several awards, and I did receive the most highest award in the county for taking apart a bomb in a bombing investigation. So I knew how county government was working. I called my legislator, John Testa, I called my legislator, Tim Carey, I called George Oro's, all in District 1, and say, hey, we need more money for this. We need more money for that. We need money for a new bomb truck. This is what legislators do. Protect the people. They got the money, they got the positions, and we have a well-established Department of Public Safety today. I want to maintain that. So, moving on, you know about me and what I'm about. People ask me, what's your agenda? My agenda is simple. It's the people's agenda. What are your needs today? There are county issues that we will take care of. Number one, we've got a homeless shelter. 2, Indian Point.
Sorry.
I got the date.
I gave you the date.
Listen, just go to my website. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Stop by your house when I'm campaigning and we can have a chat if you want to learn more about me and what I'm going to do for the county. But I can represent you here in District 9 better than we're getting represented today. So come out and vote for Bob. Pass the word and get 10 of your friends to vote. Thank you.
A little detour in our agenda. Mr. John Testa is actually here, and he'd like to say a few things. We're going to give him a couple minutes, and then we'll everybody get up, grab something to eat, grab a drink, and then we'll get started.
Thank you for allowing me to do this. I know we're getting the other candidates in here. Just first of all, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the years of support. You may remember those who live on this side of town. For my first term, my first 2 years, I did have this part of town in my district until the redistricting took place 10 years ago, and they found it reasonable to take a little sliver out of my district and split Peekskill, which was probably the stupidest thing that has ever been done among many stupid things that government does. But I just wanted to say thank you for all your support. I've done what I could over the years. You can see Washington Street, even though I know it's a pain over these number of months, but the full Washington Street's being done from one end to the other, curbs, everything's being done. That's what happens when you work together with your colleagues. We might be on different sides of the aisle at times, we might argue about things, Well, you have to work together to bring things to your community, to your district. I was able to get all of Washington Street, all of the county-owned 202, which is almost over 2 miles, 2 miles worth of Main Street, almost all the county roads in Peekskill over the last 4 years have been done. So Washington Street was a very big, important thing for me to get done, as well as the parks. You had millions done in Blue Mountain and George's Island. So these are the things that happen that some people don't notice, but really is the quality of life for all of us, and that's what I wanted to concentrate on. And one last thing, if I may, the sales tax, which I was the only one of 17 legislators to vote against the sales tax increase, the 1%. I stood out by myself, didn't really be able to stop it, but I did speak against it. I did vote against it twice, actually. But the sales tax is different in Yonkers and New Rochelle and the big cities, as they're called, because they collect their own sales tax. The sales tax stays within that community. The sales tax that was increased was for all the communities outside of those 5 large cities that share the sales tax. That's something that was not understood by a previous speaker who tried to explain it. So I just wanted to clarify that so you understood where that was coming from, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions. Again, thank you for your support. I'm retired too, Bob. And I'll be retired from my second job in a couple of months. But I'm always going to be here. If I can help you, just let me know. Thank you very much for the time.
So now Lindsay's going to come up, say a few words.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you everyone for being here. So those are the county candidates that are running. I think it's District 1 and 9. Okay. The other candidates, Colin Smith and Catherine Borgia, were invited but did not show up. But we want you guys to know that we did invite everybody. But I want to say a couple words, because one of the reasons we're also here tonight is because Peekskill Safe and Strong is celebrating 1 year. You guys might remember where we were this time last year. Our level of frustration was very high. But you know what's really awesome is it brought us all together. And we are over 1,000 strong at this point. It's really incredible. So I want to touch on a few of those accomplishments over the last year and then tell you where we're going from here. And then after that, we're going to have the mayoral candidates. Right now it looks like just Vincent Vesey is here. I don't know if Andre Rainey is going to show up. And then we're going to have the council candidates after that. And then also, thanks to some of our awesome neighbors, Fabiana and Kathleen Ray, we have some desserts. And also, thanks to Brian and Beth, Kyle's bringing over some food. So I hope that you are all hungry. You can eat the desserts first, or you can eat the food first. Desserts first. So that's how it's going to go. And then, as you know, feel free to get drinks. The bar is open, so I'm pretty sure this is the best candidate forum you've all ever been to. That's right. So a quick note on Peekskill Safe and Strong. So we started at just as a grassroots organization, people coming together in each other's living rooms, and really grew into this network of really amazing neighbors who are looking out for one another, sharing information, which is so powerful, since a lot of times we're not getting information from City Hall or our elected officials. And some of the things that we've done over the past year include, number one, obviously, we shed a lot of light on the homeless shelter project and all of the things that were not right about that, and some of the unethical things that were going on at City Hall. That was the initial thing that brought us all together. In addition to that, many of us planted flags for veterans at the cemeteries in Cortland and Peekskill. We raised money for My Brother Vinny and did their walk. Many of us walked in the 4th of July parade. I'm now famous as the Statue of Liberty. We raised money for Peekskill Youth Football. We did community cleanup, which we should actually do more of those. We supported our friends at Dunbar Heights, including donating heaters from many of you when they didn't have heat and hot water or cooking. And we supported countless other different initiatives throughout the community. We raised initiative about multiple citywide issues and advocated for residents. Even just as recently as Tuesday of last week, Kathy spoke at the city council meeting about safety issues around our hydrants, our fire hydrants, that don't have water. So if you don't have water at a hydrant that's in front of your house and your house has a fire, that is a scary situation. As a result of that, and many of us going there to support her, the city is now going to be flushing hydrants starting next week to find out if the hydrants are working and if they have pressure. That's a huge safety issue. And so because of this network and all of us supporting one another, things big and small have been happening. So looking ahead, well, first of all, congratulations to all of that. That is like huge. And some of the little stuff is really important too. Like, you know, on our street on Ridge in Shenandoah, we realized we were having break-ins into cars, which we shared with everyone to realize it was happening on Hoover and Lindbergh. Since then, we shared all of that, and it's not happening anymore. There hasn't been any, right? Okay, good. So it's sharing the information is so, so powerful. So please continue to share information. You can always send it to Peekskill Safe and Strong's email to share if you don't want to share it on social media. But remember how powerful that is as well. And so looking ahead, Peekskill Safe and Strong is actually an official nonprofit organization now. So we're looking for people to be involved as board members. We're looking for people to get involved in initiatives. One of the things we have coming up is we're going to get people together to do like a think session. What's important to us and what things do we need to push on and tackle? From hydrants to code enforcement, quality of life, all of that, and it becomes much more realistic and powerful when we do it as a group. So keep a lookout for that, and we'll be looking for people to get involved. And then, before I pass it back to Rachel, we need to thank a few people. First of all, Glenn, who I think is in the other room, for giving us his space tonight. Thank you, Glenn, if you can hear me. And Kyle next door, he's bringing over some food. Our awesome moderator and deli extraordinaire, Sophia. Sophia. I want to thank Marianne for taping today, and because we'll be able to share this information with the public. Beth and Brian in the back, they're amazing. They've been here since the start, and always willing to do anything to help us out, which is amazing. And I also want to thank some of our board members are here tonight, Barbara, Leah, Brendan, Rachel, and we'll be looking for more people to get involved. And most importantly, thank you to the over 1,000 of you who are members of Peekskill Safe and Strong for signing that original petition and continuing to support different initiatives. Congratulations on 1 year. Okay, with that said, I'm gonna hand it back to Rachel. She's gonna get us started, and we'll go from there. Thank you, everybody.
Hi everyone, I'm going to invite Mr. Vincent Vesey up. We did send an invitation to all of the city council members that are up for re-election and to Mr. Andre Rainey. We received an email back from their campaign manager that the time didn't work. So we changed the time to accommodate them, and then we received an email saying that they still were not coming. So, but the show must go on, so we will have Mr. Vesey come up. We do have some questions. He'll get 2 minutes to answer each question. Kathy will be timing with her nice little chimes there. If anybody has any questions that they want to ask from the floor, I just ask that you go outside, grab a piece of paper, somebody will come around and grab it. I can't promise you that we'll read it, but we're going to do our best since we have a little bit of extra time since we're not having more than one candidate.
Can I have 4 minutes then?
Now 3.
Anyone want to throw a question?
All right, come on up.
Hi, Mr. Vesey. Where are you? You want to stand? You want to sit? You can stand? All right, that works because I gotta walk to you, you gotta walk to me.
We'll see how long questions go. I may have to sit down.
That's fair. All right, so first one, we're gonna jump right in. The first question is, as mayor, what specifically will you do to build trust and transparency at City Hall and provide specific examples of how you've done that in the past?
Great, thank you. And just before we start, if I may, I just left Mayor Rainey at the domestic violence platform issues down on Riverfront that we were recognizing it was Domestic Violence Month. And we have a couple of members in the community that are starting a new group to recognize that on an annual basis. And I encourage everyone here, especially members of this group, I think it fits well with your mission, that it's something that's worthwhile for everyone here. It's a real issue that is affecting many people in our community that we may not even know. So I just wanted to say that's something that we were just both attending. And unfortunately, I understand it's election season, so our schedules pull us in many different ways. So unfortunate that he couldn't join me tonight. One of the things I would just like to say as an introduction here is that I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Peekskill, 4th generation here, served on the city council from 2014 through 2017. And one of the issues that drove me to get back into thinking about getting back into office here in the city of Peekskill, I did not run for re-election after my 4-year stint on the city council, was the issue related to what was going on here on the south side and what was the reason why. And I apologize to many of you for having to form a committee called Safe and Strong in a community such as Peekskill, where you were not served by your mayor and city council and the officials in City Hall, that you had felt the need to have to organize this group. While it's a great organization, and I know a lot of great things have come from it, but the reason why it was initially formed, I feel it was unfortunate. And it kind of dovetails into me answering this question. I think, as Frank alluded to earlier, we ran for election early on in 2013, and we held office from 14 through 17, was that the city was in bad shape. Financially, was in 8 years of disarray from local leaders that were involved in city politics, in my opinion, for all the wrong reasons. You know, nobody's doing this to further their political career here or to make $1 million out of it, believe me. I mean, it's a labor of love. We do it because we love our community. And the biggest thing for me is I want to work for and help organize and do things that will help this city be prosperous. And I think I did that for the 4 years I was on the city council. I never played politics with anybody. I just called it like I saw it. And I used my knowledge and the things that I've learned over 23 years in business and applied that to just sound principles that I thought would make the most sense to further the development of this community. And that's what I've done, and that's what I pledge I will always do in a transparent way. You will always get an answer from me if you come to City Hall looking for it. And if you don't get that answer, you can be sure that you'll get a phone call the next day, either from me or from the city official that will provide that answer. I said this earlier on in a number of areas where a lot of people don't want to come to City Hall on a Monday night and voice their concerns. It may be private. They may not like being on television. I don't think it's the right platform for a lot of people to air their grievances or issues with the city. I will hold office hours during the week for anybody that needs to come in and discuss a certain topic with a city official that is applicable to your issue. We will also be opening City Hall on Saturdays for half a day. We'll call it City Hall Saturdays, once a month. So those people that can't do business during the week because they work or whatever it may be can then get there on a Saturday and take care of their business that way.
All right, so then to piggyback off of Safe and Strong, there's two questions regarding, and I'll just put them both together. As mayor, how will you handle the homeless shelter's request to relocate in Peekskill, and where would you put it if it stayed?
So the homeless shelter. I had a feeling this question would come up. The reality is that it's really not the city of Peekskill's decision, or we're not a real estate company, or we shouldn't be working with an independent company or nonprofit to designate locations where they can do their business, whether it's a homeless shelter, an automotive shop, a deli. Nobody's coming to the city hall to say, hey, I want to open up a new deli over here on Highland Avenue. Where do you think I can put it, and will the city help me? That's not the way it works. So this whole process from the get-go obviously was, and we all know this in this room, as far as transparency goes, was not done in a way in which that the city got involved way before they should have, in kind of even down to the, from what I understand, the real estate agent that was involved in the transaction. But that being said, the reality is this, is that the City Hall in itself, other than providing code compliance or code within the city of Peekskill that would allow for a shelter, and as I understand it, now I'm not a lawyer like Frank is, but they're operating under a special permit specific to the location that they are currently in. And I know this because in 1987, my father was on the city council and actually approved that special permit for a 7-bed facility for individuals that fell on hard times, families within the city of Peekskill. If you had a fire, if you had a change in circumstance in your life and you came upon hard times, we were here to help our neighbors. And that's what CHOP originally started as. It has grown into a situation here where members of the CHOP board and sit on many city boards, are members of certain political committees, and the relationships have become mired in this basically, I don't want to say conspiracy, but it was in some form or fashion related to the city of Peekskill then becoming an arm of CHOP, helping them designate locations within the city from a real estate perspective that they could locate a shelter. So in my opinion, it's improper. The city should look at all areas of development from a zoning perspective and take them upon their merits, how they impact the community in which, as we know, would have impacted here. And as of 2 weeks ago, the mayor on a radio station has already said he'd still be in favor of it. He doesn't understand why in a neighborhood it would create such a problem. And I said, well, it's obvious. The reality is that, he doesn't understand that owning a home and how that may affect your property values, or if you have children in that neighborhood and how that may affect it. So, I know my time's up, but those are issues that, those are things that I think are being missed by the current administration, all because of personal relationships that they may have with individuals involved in certain transactions.
Council's over, you got that one done. Sorry. All right, this is a little long. All right. As a middle-class, fourth-generation resident and homeowner, I would be interested in knowing how the city will manage to bring all city service departments to full staff and add additional staff given the hundreds of new apartments approved and being built or currently pending approval without taxing a homeowner like me out of Peekskill.
So I am as well, a fourth generation resident here in the city of Peekskill. I live here with my wife and my 3 children, although 2 are off in college right now, thank God. Not that I get that bill, thank God, but the fact that they're not there. So I do pay my fair share of taxes as well in this community, and it's just the reality of it. But in 2012 into 2013, the city of Peekskill lost, I want to say, 47 full-time positions as it relates to budgetary constraints that the city had come upon, and there were some pretty drastic cuts to city services related to that. Over my 4 years on the city council, we stabilized the financial condition of the city of Peekskill, where we walked in the door, there was $7,500 in the unassigned fund balance. I mean, literally 2 weeks from state receivership to well over $3 million after we left office. Myself, Frank, Joe Torres, and a number of individuals that worked upon that. And we did that not by taxing people out of their homes, but by smart growth, introducing more taxable related projects that come into the city of Peekskill from a tax rateable standpoint, as well as developing some more commercial, and I believe we have a long way to go on developing more commercial activity here in the city of Peekskill, both from a perspective of driving more taxes into the community, tax revenue, but also creating opportunity for its citizens and those individuals that need jobs in the community and so on. So that's one way. But with the future growth of the community, you're 100% correct with whoever asked that question. There is going to be a need, and there already is a need, for an increase to city services. And I think you need to do that in a number of ways, but one of which I think is developing smarter ways to work with what you have while incrementally growing your workforce over time. I can't walk in the door, and I know this, from a budgetary standpoint and add 10 more paid firefighters. I just can't do it. But what I can do is I can work on the paramedic overtime situation that is driving the paid firefighters budget to, be increased by $450,000 a year. There's smart overtime, and then there's not smart overtime. So there's a fine line where where it may be that paid personnel over the amount of overtime that you're spending makes just smart budgetary sense from the perspective of where we could be saving money where now we're losing it. There are other areas of flexible time where our garbage pickup, we have 1 garbage pickup a week. Mr. Ferrari, how many garbage pickups when we were growing up do we have for you? 2, sometimes 3 times a week. Garbage, trash every month, recyclables every week. We've gone backwards. We pick it up once every quarter, bulk trash. And then they're charging you to go to the city dump $5 to drop off your garbage. So these are areas of, we can have a tremendous impact where you won't be nickel and dimed anymore. You may pay your taxes. The other thing is there's a garbage tax for condominiums and multifamily and commercial homes, but the garbage refuse pickup is already built into your tax rate. So you're being double taxed if you live in any one of those types of homes. So we're going to lower taxes for those individuals and pull the garbage out of your taxes, and you'll pay just like you pay for your water. So you pay for what you use. You don't pay for garbage pickup on your multifamily home, 2 and 3 family home, and then you pay for it again with additional garbage fee from the city. So everybody will be taxed the same. So there's a lot of things that need to be corrected. Let's just say that from a professional standpoint, and we need to do a lot more from the people that we have managing the city as well, that we have plans to change day one.
All right, I have another tax-related question, so we'll jump in. When will the city decide to do a citywide property reevaluation for taxes? Says time for everyone to pay their fair share, don't you think? I pay more for garbage pickup than someone on Smith Street. What will you do about that?
Well, you won't be paying more for garbage pickup than your neighbor on Smith Street, because we're gonna fix that, but we're not gonna do a city revaluation. At least I'm not in favor of it, because there are areas and ways in which we can level out the tax ratables, like I just discussed, one being garbage. I also think there's some areas of public-private partnerships that we could tackle, some that are very substantial, and I don't want to say this publicly now just because of the fact that the city owns a lot of assets that could be leveraged from a private standpoint, that could put a tremendous amount of revenue into the city's revenue budget, that could potentially lower taxes in the city of Peekskill instead of us having to increase them over time. I have a number of ideas about that, but a full reval from anybody that you talk to that's been through it, and talk to the people down county, in Tarrytown and Scarsdale and some of the communities that have gone through this, and these townships now that are mired in years of lawsuits now related to people grieving their taxes because of the revaluation, is it tends to hurt those more, seniors specifically that may be in some of their older homes here and have lived here a number of years, and those that you think it would only affect those from a commercial standpoint are those that own larger buildings or those that may be receiving a pilot, but it's a very tricky situation. And I'll tell you, it's not just from a political standpoint, but I think everybody I've talked to that have been through these revaluations have experienced a number of people having to leave the communities that they've grown up in or lived in for a number of years, just because of the financial impact that it has had. And it sounds like it's a fair process, but it's only as fair as those doing the evaluation. And I will say that a lot of times those are individuals or companies that have no knowledge of the neighborhoods in the city of Peekskill, the history that the city of Peekskill has here within our neighborhoods. So that's one thing I'm not in favor of.
All right, this is a little long one again. Given that there have been so many head-on accidents weekly at the GOAT Trail from Bear Mountain to Ansville, is there a movement to ban commercial trucks and or motorcycles from that roadway? So many emergency services are called to aid when an accident happens. Would you call for a study to review who is using the roadway? What would you do for safer roads?
So is that Peekskill or Corley? No, it's Corley, right? So, but I believe it's a state road, if I'm correct. And I would, because of especially all of a sudden, this last few months, and I think, well, maybe it has a lot to do with the people that come up to look at the leaves and aren't familiar with the roadway conditions there. But there's been their fair share of accidents on that road in particular, and I'm not opposed to any sort of traffic study that would mitigate any accidents or save lives, obviously. More importantly, the city of Peekskill, though, getting back to the growth that we're experiencing, needs to take a serious look at the traffic patterns within the city of Peekskill, the crosswalks that aren't operable in a number of areas, especially in the middle of town. I know we're doing it, as John had indicated earlier, they're doing a lot of great work when the county does their work on the sidewalks and putting ADA compliance in place. And the city has really stepped up because of Peekskill Walks, the community, the group that has been working within the community to identify areas of concern. They're doing a great job at that. believe me, the city, you know, from someone who spent some time there, you can use all the help it can get in identifying those problem areas, but it's only as good as if you take that information, like the stuff that Safe and Strong brings to the city, and acts on it. Another real area of concern for me is the railroad station. And there was a plan when I was on the city council at the end to provide a new traffic pattern there on Railroad Avenue. I just left there, and there's cars when a train comes in, and you have cars that are trying to come off of Railroad Avenue, make a right on Hudson Avenue, and there's cars getting stuck on the track. Believe me, it's just a matter of time, especially with the development that is hopefully, if I get in office, will be planned down there on Railroad Avenue, Mr. Ginsburg project. I've already talked to him about this, but there are, it's a real area of concern, not only from a traffic standpoint for vehicles, but also pedestrians, that with all the activity that is now down there on the waterfront, with all the new restaurants and the new restaurant going into the Peekskill train station and the potential new development down there, there's a plan in place that just needs to be acted upon. It turns a small portion of Railroad Avenue up to the station one way. So those that circulate around the island and can go back up Requa Street and then circle back around and don't have to come down Railroad Avenue and interfere with the traffic going across the tracks. Those are just a couple areas. Parking needs to be addressed down there and in the city of Peekskill as well. They did a traffic study, and all that came out of it was a parking study. All that came out was a few new blue signs. No trailblazing, no security attendants within parking lots or parking garages where people will feel safe to go park there on the weekends. We have plenty of capacity in a lot of areas, but it's pointing people in the right direction to where that parking is, putting that on an app, providing some level of security within those garages so they're better utilized. There's a lot of things that need to be corrected there and done, but traffic is one of them that can easily be taken care of with the right people involved.
Two more.
All right.
Save the hardest ones for last. Just kidding. All right.
I feel like I'm on a test here.
You're doing good.
You get scored in 2 weeks. You know that. All right. Do you have any plans to beautify Washington Street? I moved to Peekskill in 1999 and nothing has changed.
Progress takes time, you know. I've lived here 48 years. Washington Street hasn't changed much since I've been here. I don't know about Glenn. Can you do something to beautify Washington Street? Actually, Glenn has invested a lot of money here, and as well as Sophia and her family on the ends of Washington Street. I think the county has finally recognized the issues related to the curbing and the roadway conditions here, and I'm glad that they have. As John said, there was a lot of pain here. One of the things that I was intimately involved with was getting J.P. McHale to come up here into the city of Peekskill and take down Farrow's Bar. Well, I've spent a few nights I want to forget in there. But, and just providing more commercial activity along Washington Street and developing opportunities for those that want to invest here. And I think you have to have an approach in City Hall where you're welcoming to those types of investments that will then transcend to beautifying any area, not just Washington Street, but any area in the city of Peekskill. So, but like I said, I think that you know, the county has done us a service. The only thing I do wish, and I fear, the city of Peekskill didn't do anything while this street was opened. They didn't replace the water mains. They didn't do any repairs to the sewer mains. We talked about the hydrants issues here. It's this type of foresight that we're lacking. You have how many months long project here where this street has been dug up from end to end, which as long as I've lived here, I never remember it being done. It was a perfect opportunity for the city of Peekskill to address utility concerns that we have in this street, in these neighborhoods, all at once. You don't have the expense of ripping up the street, you don't have the expense of restoring the street. All you had to do was come in and do whatever you needed to do. There was discussion last month now by the water superintendent. Well, we would have, but we didn't have the money. But you just spent $3 million on Lower South Street sewer mains. So if you're gonna bond for $3 million for there, you know what, you're bonding, throw a couple more million and take care of Washington Street. It's gonna cost you double that later to come back in and rip up this street. So I can almost guarantee you this is probably not the end of ripping up Washington Street, unfortunately. How many times have we seen a road get paved in this community and then 2 months later Con Ed's in there replacing a gas main? There's no coordination, there's no foresight. There needs to be professionals in place in City Hall. We lost a great director of public works, Brent Van Zant, who had a great working relationship with Con Edison and made sure that when they did tear up a street, they didn't just patch it, they went curb to curb. Already I'm seeing, you look at Depew Street, he tore up Depew Street, half of Depew Street got paved, not curb to curb. So there's a number of areas where I think we're lacking in people knowing what to look for, first of all, and then having the right people in place to address it. So I can tell you that will not happen when I'm mayor of the city of Peekskill. We have the right people to put back in place and the right people to address issues like this. So.
All right, and the last question for you. Would you consider creating a quality of life committee? A quality of life committee identifies critical code enforcement, got through almost every question, critical code enforcement, housing, and recreational issues facing the city.
Would you like to chair it? Yes. One of the, if you read some of our literature that we've been pushing, one of the key tenets of our platform here is quality of life. Quality of life from a number of perspectives, a lot of what you have listed there and more. But it just comes down to the basic provision of city services for our residents in our neighborhoods. A few of the things specifically, code enforcement is a huge issue here in the city of Peekskill. For whatever reason, we haven't been able to hire enough building inspectors and code enforcement officers to address the needs of this community. These are not big ticket items and not something that shouldn't be able to be worked into city budgets. I think we just got our first code enforcement officer, our building inspector in the last 6 years here in the city of Peekskill. That's how long the position has gone unfilled. So there's that. The other issues that we see that are being addressed, obviously the garbage pickup. I think that with an increase in garbage pickup and different times of day garbage pickup in certain neighborhoods and areas, especially our downtown, we'll do a lot to remedy some of the garbage that we have on our streets that's been plaguing the city for a number of years. Zombie homes is another big issue. Number of foreclosures within the city of Peekskill. If you live on a block where there's a boarded up home, grass is 6 feet high, people are in there, you don't know what's going on in there, especially not so much maybe in this neighborhood, but on the other side of town specifically, it's a tremendous problem. There's a lot of communities out there that are putting laws on the books where after working for a number of months or a year or so with banks and property owners, cities are actually taking these boarded up fire hazards, problem areas within communities down to just, I'd rather have a vacant lot on my street than a boarded up old house that is creating issues, bringing my property values down and creating unsafe conditions for my children or people living on that street. But that needs to be worked out in some form or fashion, and we have some ideas on that. working with the historic preservation boards, obviously. We're not looking to take down historic homes. Somebody said to me, I can't believe you're saying that. I'm like, we're not talking about historic homes here. We're talking about homes that are a detriment to communities and they're unsafe, and providing an unsafe living condition, and really dragging down the value of and the perception of the city of Peekskill. So those are just a few, and there's, I'm sure, more. But it goes back to having constant communication with your neighbors in your community and not living in a bubble, understanding where this community was and where it needs to go. And I think that's a little bit what I bring to the table. I have some experience in development and construction, and I worked 15 years at the Port Authority in New York and New Jersey, Kennedy Airport. I own my own consulting business where I help companies succeed in a number of different areas related to operational impacts that you have on the public. And I think just with that experience alone, and being able to manage, I'm not interested in the politics of this job, believe me, I'm really not. We're here to work for the community. We're not here to, we're here to represent you, yes, but we're here to work for you and work with you. So issues that are brought to us, my team, who you'll hear from shortly, and we put together this team specifically to be able to address every constituent's need in this community from a perspective of professionalism and courtesy. So I guess that's my time. Anything else? Just want to thank you for having us. Again, it's unfortunate that those that are running against us didn't feel the need that they needed to be here. But I will tell you this, it's not 2 weeks. Saturday starts early voting for the first time here in the city of Peekskill. I think if you can't make it on election day, you have a week up until election day, starting this Saturday at City Hall, to go cast your vote. And I can't tell you, from someone who won an election by 3 votes the last time, 3, went to absentee ballots, counted 2 weeks after the election. Every vote really counts, and it's very, very important that you get out and vote and have your voices heard. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. If anybody has questions about early voting, Bruce is here. He can answer some questions, right? Because I know I have questions. I'm still confused. And we're going to take a 5-minute break because Kyle has sent over some trays of food. We have broccoli salad, meatballs, baked ziti, and then we also, Sophia brought over some forget about it sandwiches. So let's eat and then we'll get started and try the broccoli salad. It's amazing.